Well, hello there. We are out. We are doing January's overnighter. It's 7 degrees. The water temperature is about the same. I'm on the river. It's higher. It's a very high river. In through the town, it's in through Enniskillen. It's definitely moving. It's pushing through. But I've got 4 rods on. I'm about to go make some dinner. Let's see how we get on today, shall we? Here we are for January's overnighter. I have 4 rods. This is I did have a sardine on this one, but the sardine has come off. So I'm going to put on a smelt. These are pretty small, but smelt is smelt. It's all good. There we go. If you were a pike, you'd have a go on that, wouldn't you? Yes, eat me, motherfucker! Standard ledger. A couple of foot of rotten bottom to I think that's a 5-ounce lead. I don't really need a 5-ounce lead today. I'm not really fishing that far out. It's not really that. It's deeper on the inside here. The far side's not that deep. So let's get this set up. Right, on that rod is a roach. Roach is quite like roach. I've just seen put a smelt out on this rod here. The 2 rods on the pod, they have a small mackerel and a eel head. And we're here for the night. But it's not a blank so far because I tried a wee chuck around with a lure rod and a Mirrorless mouse and had a little jack. I'm going to show you the footage of that now. It's not a blank. Woohoo! Still a bit of flow, still a right bit of flow coming through here. You can see it in the water. But now I'm going to light a wee fire, get some food, and I want to see what time it is. It is 20 to 4, so it'll be dark in about 3 hours. That isn't so bad. It means that I get 3 hours fishing. I fish to a couple hours into dark, as I normally do. I'm on one of these floating jetties. So you just have to be careful of them because they kind of bounce around like a excited Labrador. let's get dinner on the go.
Just then.
I think we've had a run here on the smelt that I just cast out. Okay. Okay, that's a fish. We're in. Doesn't feel very big. It's a little jack. Maybe even use him as bait. Decisions, eh? And I have no pliers with me. I really don't want to have to take this one back to the hooking tools. Right, I have to take this one back to the hooking tools. There we go, got it off. Well, jack. And away it goes. Number 2 fish of the session. Well, 2 pike so far, 4 rods in, little fire pits on the go. I'm going to make a cup of coffee and something to eat. Today's dinner will be pasta carbonara. Let's see how good this one is. The pasta bolognese one wasn't that great, if I'm honest with you. It was a bit shite. It didn't really taste anything. So, pasta carbonara. Although I'm kind of wondering how you can fuck up pasta carbonara. But, it's all good. This is a Thursday, so I have a rare midweek overnighter. This will be my January overnighter. So let's look forward to catching something. Hopefully I get something bigger, because the 2 fish I had were small. Second one, actually, that wee voice in my head was going, you could use that as bait scobes. And then I was kind of good scobes and bad scobes is like, put it on the hook, scobes, put it on the hooks, put it back floating and use this bit. Good scobes is like, don't be a dickhead, leave it alone, put it back in. And good scobes won that argument. You'll be pleased to know. Although now I'm sitting thinking maybe I should have used it as a bait. But I'm going to get a cup of coffee and then we're going to chill out, I think. I'm surprised to see midges and flying things. We had like a solid 10 days of negative temperatures. Then we had like a second blast of it where it went down to below 0 again. And the last thing I'd be expecting to see is kind of like midges and things that fly. So I've lit a mosquito coil in the sleeping bit in there. And I'm just letting that kind of drive the midges out to fuck. Out. Taking advantage of this big rock here. just to put stuff on. This place is flooded. You know, normally there's like grass here, but it's shite mud at the minute. And as you're going down the floating jetty, the ramp's going up, which means that the jetty is floated higher than it normally is, because normally it's a slope down, but it is what it is. Just have to accept it and move on. Nice weather. Dry. We don't mind dry. Oh, did you see the news? The Chinese military have designed a brand new helmet for their troops. Get this. The helmet has a self-destruct button. Inside the helmet there is a small amount of explosives. And the Chinese Communist Party have told the Chinese troops, well, that's in case you ever get that badly wounded and you don't want to fall into enemy hands, you just press the button and then that's it. No more problems, you can't tell anybody anything, you're gone. No more pain. But knowing global military tactics and stuff like that there, the Chinese military have a lot of problems with desertion. So can you possibly see any sort of reason why commanders in the Chinese military would have like a tablet with like 1 to 50, you know, soldiers number 1 to 50. Oh, number 23 is running away, click, number 23 is dead. And it also sends a big message to the rest of them, unless you fucking start doing what we tell you, press dead. Communism. And it melts my brain that fucking people in the UK and America and the Western world are saying, you know, well, maybe if we tried communism our way, it would work. It's like, no. Communism has never worked anywhere. You know, I understand that fascism is bad. Yes, the Nazis were fucking awful. But old Stalin kind of says to Adolf after the Second World War, hold my beer, son. Wait, do you see this? Fuck. I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and he had, I think it's Tim Kennedy, UFC fighter, American Special Forces guy, and he was kind of talking about, you know, his life in the military and the different things he's doing. Well, they done a TV show for the History Channel called Hunting Hitler, and he honestly believes that Hitler escaped the Second World War. You know, he was saying that there's towns that you can go to in Chile and Argentina where they only speak German. And as he went there, now he's a white guy, so he went there and he was talking, you know, in German. And the people that were there were like, alright, he's just another white German. And they were inviting him into their houses going, this is my great granddad's medals, like real proud thing. And you're there going, you know, these guys were like fucking war criminals that escaped. But you know, yeah, that's what happened in the Second World War. You know, that's what happens. After the Second World War, the Western countries basically grabbed as much Nazi scientists as they could. I mean, the Americans wouldn't have got to the moon if it wasn't for Nazi rockets. That's fact. You know, there was a Buzz Aldrin joke that if you walked into the NASA in the early days and yelled Sig Heil, there'd be fucking people involuntarily snapping to attention. That's a Buzz Aldrin, man on the moon joke. Alright. Yeah, bastard. Alright. Cup of coffee. Adventure food. know these things you have to fish out these little packets because they're kind of weird. You have to fill it up to, like, where is it? It's level number. You have to fill it up to level number 8. That's about level number 8. Where's my spoon? There's my spoon. I'm seeing some red stuff in a carbonara. There was no, you don't put red stuff in a carbonara. I'm seeing some flakes of green stuff as well in the carbonara. There shouldn't be any flakes of anything green or red in the carbonara. It should be I will give it a go. Let that sit there for the minutes it needs to, and then we'll give it a road test and see if it's good, or see if we wouldn't feed it to a starving dog. Waging on the wouldn't feed it to a starving dog category. Anyway, cup of coffee time.
Next morning.
Well, dawn has just broke. I'm gonna have to say that was a rough night's sleep. That is a busy little car park. You know, Thursday night, Friday morning, all the weird kinky sex freaks turned up. Fermanagh has a problem with doggers. Thankfully they kind of spy the bivvy and fuck off. Only the most determined perverts kind of stay. But Christ, there must have been fucking 10 cars turned up in the middle of the night. Wow. Gonna get the baits out. Going to get a cup of coffee on the go first of all, because I think I need a cup of coffee. And then maybe have a breakfast sandwich or something. But that was a fucking weird night. Oh, that's a fish. Hold on. Bam, we're in. Man's trying to have a cup of coffee and off runs the pike. Don't think it's very big. Well, it might be an alright size. Right, let's get this one unclipped and in the our hooking mat. Alright, yeah, I'm just going to cut this off because I can't be arsed trying to unhook this one. That's the bottom one, and let's get the top one out. our smelt back. I could just get a grip of you so that I can hold on to you a bit better. There we go. Oh, come on, you pain in the arse. Jacks are a pain in the fucking tits to unhook. Come on, you little shit, open your mouth. Oh, right. Right, let's get you released. You little pain in the backside. And away it goes. Aye, aye, aye. So 3 pike landed, 2 runs missed. Not so bad. I missed one on the smelt, and I missed one on the sunken float rig. I've put some rattling beads on the sunken float rig because when it's up in the water, the current's just going to make the roach dead bit go like that in the water, and then it's going to rattle. The fish that I lost didn't seem to be any bigger than the fish that you last seen me catch. But it's been a nice day so far. I've had breakfast. It was one of the boil in the bag. It took me back to the days in the military. It was like all day breakfast. It was quite nice actually. It was actually quite nice. You know, it was just basically beans and sausages, but it was edible, it was nice. Unlike the freeze dried stuff. Now I got asked, why are you doing this to yourself? Kind of, why are you almost punishing yourself by eating freeze dried shit? Well, I got given it, so I may as well try it, and you know, get my honest review on it is that it's not nice. I suppose if it's an emergency and you need to eat something, you could eat it, but there's easier ways to live. The carbonara, the pasta bolognese, the dehydrated stuff was not good at all. Terrible, not good at all. But it's going to make more sense. The stuff that's basically boiled in the bag is like normal food that's been put into a bag, and all you have to do is boil it to heat it up. The dehydrated stuff is stuff that you have to rehydrate again, so it takes longer to cook. And I'm not sure what additives they put in. You know, I don't know what additives are put into it. I know that the shelf life on the dehydrated stuff has got a lot of shelf life, whereas the stuff that's ready made, you have to preheat, or you have to heat in the bag. Its shelf life wouldn't be as good as the freeze dried stuff. Stands to reason. I mean, wet food is going to go off quicker than freeze dried stuff. I took about half an hour there, and I brought out the ultralight rod. I spent half an hour chucking little spinners and stuff like that to see if I get some perch action. Didn't get anything on that, didn't even get follows. Done the same with lures for pike, didn't even get follows, but the water is absolutely fucking cold. It is Baltic cold. I did drop some chopped fish into my swim. I bought a Corda dropper or booper or whatever the fuck it's called. It's this thing here. Come here. Right, you cast it out like a spade, and when it hits the bottom, it opens up. So you fill this compartment with your fish, you close it down, pull your little extender out, and once it hits the bottom, it opens, and all the fish gets put into the current. I have a visitor. I'm hoping it's not a sex pest like last night. You can screw off the nose. Screw off the nose like so. And you can take a little screw out of here. And they come with weights. This is 60 grams. So you load it in the nose, push your little screw down. That's it locked into place. Now it's a case of threading your thing back onto it again, and then screwing your little tip back in. 60 grams is more than enough to get it down to where you need it to be. There is some extra weights, I've got them in the bag, but that would make it a very heavy thing, but it's basically like a spade. So once you tip the bottom, that opens up and the chunks of fish get deposited on the bottom. I chopped up a load of sprats. Well, I basically chopped up a kilo of sprats and put that into the swim last night. So yeah, the Corum dropper thing. Again, I've only used it once. It's worked so far. So I can't really say anything negative because it's working. Oh. Let's just put you out of the way. I'm throwing it with a spot rod because you don't want to throw this with a normal rod because it would be an absolute beast to throw. So the spot rod's a bit better than the normal rod, than any sort of normal. Just gonna set this down. Any sort of normal rod. Apart from that, it's been a good day so far. I'm going to fish to about 3 o'clock and then take a slow drive home, pack it up and go home. Mrs. S is working tonight, so I got to get home and look after the monster. I'm surprised too many kinky sex freaks turned up into the car park last night. Wow. Like, this is a car park that's pretty far out of the middle of nowhere. Well, that's probably why they turn up here actually. I never thought about it like that. Yeah. You know, it was cold last night too. There was frost on the ground. You know, that's definitely not tropical temperatures for the old bedroom Olympics. Again, but who am I to judge? Who am I to judge? I'm debating whether or not to have another cup of coffee and dismantle the bivvy, just to kind of get ahead of it when it is time to go home. It's still, I think it's about 10 o'clock, so I've still got a fair bit of time yet. I'm hoping that the baits work. Let's see if they work for me. See if I have another fish. It'd be this is very very. The river itself here is very high though. It is falling down. But anyone that's ever been to these sort of floating jetties, normally the bridge to get onto them, the bridge is going downwards. The bridge here is going up. And you can see on the big steel pylons that hold the jetty, you can see how high the water has been because there's like a ring of scum around it. You know, so it was about 18 inches higher than it is now. The further you go down into the upper Loch Earn system, it's literally in the fields. It's everywhere. You know, so the jetties are kind of covered. I did look at some places on the river, and I know the river is going to be tough fishing, but as I've said to you guys all before, I prefer fishing the rivers. Personally, I believe that the River Earn, it has the best, it has all the factors going for it to produce a big pike. There's shoalfish there all year round, there's deep holes, there's slack eddies, there's rivers that cut into it like the Ardee and the Sillies. The River Earn always throws up big fish. Every year it throws up big fish. A couple of years ago there was a guy that had a 39-pound fish. A match angler staying in the cottages at the Killyhelvin Hotel. You know, the River Earn always throws up, you know, fish of a lifetime. So that's why I prefer the River Earn. Now unfortunately, if the river's in the fields and ripping through the 100 miles an hour and 8 ounces aren't holding the bottom, then it's not much fish, you can't fish it. You know, just the same as if you're fishing the River Earn and there is flow, it is moving. Well, all the flotsam and jetsam and weeds that I'm not so much having a problem with here, but on the main river, you get a hell of a day's fishing with all that weed coming down. So the river at the minute is unfishable. I haven't fished the big loch, the lower loch this year at all. They still have the kill nets, so the cull nets on the loch. The netting season for the commercial fishermen to kill the pike runs from the 1st of December to the end of February. Yes, we still have commercial fishing here in the Earn system. Yes, it drives me fucking up the wall. You know, the Earn has a lot of potential. It could be, you know, it could be the jewel of pike fishing in Europe if it was left alone. You know, the pike grow quickly, they fight hard, but there's so many problems. Like the River Earn at Derry Chara, there's an open sewer that flows in there. Now you fish Derry Chara, you will catch tampons and condoms and all sorts of mess. So that's Derry Chara. That river flows right through Enniskillen. I see people on these aquabike things going on the River Earn. Not for a fucking pension would I swim in the River Earn. Not a chance. It is that dirty. You know, there's that much pollution in it. It is unbelievable. So that's one big issue. The second big issue I find on the river itself is, you know, you blink these days and there seems to be a brand new marina getting put up. It's like, okay, more boat traffic, the boat tourism, you know, the boat tourists, some of them are brilliant people, some of them are great people, others are arseholes, others look at anglers and think, oh look, there's a group of anglers, we can fucking annoy them, so let's race past them in our boat. You know, boat tourism, again, you don't need a license to drive a boat. There's no test to drive a boat. So you see it all the time in the summer. You'll see some guy or some woman on their boat out of their fucking mind on the drink or the drugs, and they'll not have a fucking clue. You'll also see, I mean, it's been in my videos, where guys have come onto jetties, took their little dog off the boat, put it on the jetty so it can have a shit, and then pick up the dog and leave the shit. That's just disgusting. Or they fuck a big bag of rubbish out over the side, you know, and who cares, because they're on holiday. That sort of shit fries my brain. The water system, believe it or not, is lower today than what it used to be before the hydroelectric dam was put in at Ballyshannon. Especially the river and the upper system. If I'm talking to old people, the levels in the upper system, once the dam went in, they were able to regulate it. The landowners, the farmers, were able to reclaim land, to use more land as farms. And that's fine, they're making their money. You know, this is why when you see it now, it's kind of unusual to see like whole fields just underwater, because the loch's risen. According to some of my friends that work for the electricity board at the Ballyshannon hydroelectric dam, they all say that that dam is now, it was meant to last 50 years when it was built, so it's now 20 years past the end of its life, and it's showing. They're saying that the annual maintenance bills and the amount of people they have to keep and pay a full-time job to keep the place running costs more than the electricity it makes to the grid. So it's operating at a loss. Not only is it operating at a loss financially, it's also environmentally destroyed the Earn system. The Earn system used to have one of the biggest runs of salmon and sea trout in Europe, and the hydroelectric dam overnight stopped that. You know, they built the dam on the proviso that they were meant to build a big massive fish ladder, and the fish ladder they put in was nowhere near adequate, or nowhere near what they originally promised. It was a case of once the dam was up and they were making money, it was a case of fuck it, who cares? And unfortunately, this is a geopolitical thing, because the Republic of Ireland viewed Northern Ireland as a pain in its ass. They basically didn't listen to any of the issues that were being raised. Not wanting to go too far into the history, but typically the South couldn't give a fuck about what Northern Ireland wanted, shall we say, or asked for, shall we say. But that's politics. Again, that's politics from like 50 years ago. Some would argue it hasn't really changed. I could understand that, because I look at our political leaders and I wouldn't trust half of them with a potato gun, let alone the country. So, pollution, water abstraction, artificially keeping the water levels too high at spawning time, so year classes get spawn dried, where they spawn in like a field, water's then took away, that kills a year class of fish. Commercial angling, that's fucking another one. And then there's the weirs and the dam. Apart from that, it's a brilliant place to come. Every year the books say, now this is the books, whether you believe the government statistics or you do not believe them, every year they say that there is 25 tons of pike removed from the lower Earn system. One of the men that is involved in that apparently is semi-illiterate. it's his family that do the books for him. So how is he meant to accurately tell you how much he's caught? And again, they're only allowed to take the pike. That's what their license is for. So there's footage of them with boxes of roach and bream and perch and trout. And they'll of course argue that this is bycatch. They can't help this is a bycatch. But they'll still sell it, and they'll still make pennies out of it. So the bycatch seems to be getting more and more financially lucrative for them. And to top it all off, whereas the licenses for the commercial fishing were what's called grandfathered, where they were a family license, and once that family no longer has the ability or the sons to carry out the work, the license dies with them. The powers that be that run our country have decided to make the licenses commercial so that anyone can buy them. So now you have guys that commercially fish Loch Ness, which is a complete other basket of cats. I'm not going to talk about that. You've got commercial anglers that are on the Loch Ness, eyeing up Loch Earn. And if you look at the literature from the Loch Ness anglers, they've started to sell trout or dollahan, which is a whole fucking nightmare. The trout guys spend loads of money making their fishery, making the place so that the fish spawn and it's a good fishery and it's healthy and there's no pollution. And then when they found out that the netmen are selling the trout, there's going to be a bit of a scrap between the game side of it and the netmen. And as a course angler, I'm just kind of sitting back going, well, you laughed when it was the coarse fish, so now do you want my help? I don't want to see any fish netted. I don't believe that there should be commercial fishing in land waters. Those fish are worth more to tourism than they are in a fucking can of cat food. But the wording has changed for the trout, where they've started to say things like trout eat different things, so the pigment of their flesh will be slightly different. And that's a huge red flag for me, because I catch a trout from the river and I eat it. The colour of the meat will be a certain colour. I then catch a trout from Loch Earn and I fillet it, or I prepare it. And if I prepared the two fillets of fish, they will be very, very different colours because they're from different water systems. So by the netmen saying, oh, these fish, they eat different things and blah, 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 that's their way, I think, of saying this is a Loch Ness fish when it might not be. Now that's again, the commercial fishing industry in Northern Ireland, I don't understand it. I'm honest, I don't understand it. One of my friends did the tour of the Loch Ness eel fishery, and the old fella that did the tour was saying when his granddad was doing the eels and blah blah blah, there was so many hundreds of tons of eels caught. Now that he's doing it, there is less, lots and lots less. And he's there going, well, when my son goes to take it on, there'll be even less for him. And the fella said to him, well, surely you have to kind of say, hold on a minute, if the place has been fished to death, why not give the place a rest? And the guy kind of answered back as if to say, well, this is how we make our money. So eels are critically endangered. They're on the critically endangered species list. So they're prepared to let a fish species that's basically knocking on the door of extinction, they're prepared to let it go to the wall because of money and personal greed. Industries and businesses rise and fall and change all the time. 100 years ago, The busiest man in your village would have been the blacksmith, who'd have been blacksmithing for your horses. Over time, people got cars, and the blacksmith had to change his trade. You know, progression sometimes is painful. And whilst we do have a marvellous, an absolutely cracking welfare system in the UK, I don't wish to see anybody sent to welfare. But I do think it's time that the commercial angling in Northern Ireland was consigned to the history books. I mean, I look at the River Bann and the match guys that come across to fish the festivals in the River Bann. A lot of the French and the Dutch guys that come across and spent a hell of a lot of money, they're not coming no more because the fishing's went to shit. The people that run our country need to open their eyes up a wee bit. But that's the end of the rant. That's the end of the talking with scope section. Let's go and put a nice big fresh bait on and cast it out. I have no idea what I'm going to put on. Nope, I'm going to take this down first of all. This is the social extension for the Tracker 100T Tempest Brolly that I got, and it's quite good. It is quite good. This is the first time it's been up, so I'm impressed with it. But I should have a cup of tea though, or a cup of coffee. Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll go and get this down and get some more bait on and see where we go. Let's. The river's actually fell about a couple of inches since last night. Where I put the brolly, it was like right on the edge of the water, and now there's a good couple of there's at least 18 inches of clear space of land. Still a muddy swamp, like, but I just showed you that the water's fell. When I arrived down, I took a like a mark on a part of the jetty there, and it is literally kind of an inch and a half out of the water. So the river's falling. Whether or not that'll stay, because apparently next week we're due more storms. But at the minute, the river is falling, still tanking through. Still a lot of debris coming down. Lots of reeds, lots of dying weed. So it's hard to get rods to stay in a position, if you know what I mean. There's a big hare in the field across from me. Load of sheep. I've had early morning kayakers. Oh, excuse me, damn squeaky jetty. Early morning kayakers, about 10 of them came past, heading that way. If you go that way, you go to Cromcastle. So we're not that far away from Cromcastle. We're still in the north, I think. I'm not sure. I think. It's been a nice morning. Oh, last night's dinner, the pasta carbonara. Yeah, you wouldn't feed it to a refugee dog. It was stinking. I have no fucking idea why they add like peppers, onions, peas to a fucking carbonara. Carbonara is dead simple. It is pasta, it is creamy white sauce, and it is ham. That's it. That's all that's in it. But no, ready-made meal or freeze-dried meal. So that's 2 for 0 for 2 in the taste test. The beef bolognese one tasted like rat's ass, and the carbonara one tasted like rat's ass. So it's a negative. Would not recommend. I'll fish today till about 3 o'clock and then take a slow drive home. But it hasn't been a bad session. 3 fish. Okay, they've been tiny. That last one on the smelt was the biggest of them. I did lose a fish on I have a sunken patent ostrich roach. The middle rod has a patent ostrich roach. I did lose a fish in that. But again, it wasn't very big. Beautiful place to wake up to in the morning, isn't it? Right, I'm going to go through the sunken float paternoster rig. I'm going to start at the top of the rod and work my way down, because this is what you'll be tying on the rod first. Your sunken float, that's your sunken float there. These wee things are just wee rubber beads. That's instead of tying a stop knot. And that's there's just a wee bead there and a wee bead there. Then that's to a clip and a swivel. This is your up trace. It's important to use an up trace. This is your hook and trace. It has a rattling bead in it. The hook and trace can be detached here by pulling this rubber. There you go, that's how you detach your hook and trace. This thing here is a Fox rotating helicopter trace for pike fishing. It just means that the bait can swim around and it has free movement. It can also swim up, but if it swims up, it hits your up trace and you don't get bit off. Your hook trace should be between 12 to 14 inches. Your up trace should be between, well, usually 2 foot. 2 foot's good enough, like. That way there's nowhere that the fish can get near main line to bite through it. And the last bit is your rotten bottom to your lead. Now this lead link can be up to 5 foot if you wanted it. It can be 2 foot if you wanted it. It's however, it's up to you. So that's a quick rundown of the sunken float rigs that I use.